My brother and my men, my dudes, welcome to the Inside Approach. Sitting across from me is my new good friend, Mr. Dan Tocchini.
Yep.
Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jared. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've known you now for a couple months.
Yeah.
We've just had short interactions, but yet they've always been good interactions. So I really appreciate who you are and the energy, but also the knowledge. I mean, I've just gotten a little glimpse of who you are, and so I'm really excited to get to know you more as well. So thank you for being on the show.
Well, likewise. I thought the best part about this is going to be to get to know you as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, this is all about you. All about you. Now, we'll have something back and forth for sure, because I mean, obviously the Inside Approach is about men evolving naturally. And so as we as men can have these kind of conversations, it's going to help us evolve, because we're going to learn from each other. And that's what this whole purpose is that we can become better, helping each other out. So scratch each other's back. So again, thanks for being on it. So really quick, if you just tell just a little bit about yourself as far as your age, your current career, and your family.
So I'm 70 years old, and I've been in you could call it the human potential field, human resource field for a little over 40 years. I started in the human potential movement many years ago, had a faith experience, noticed the stuff that was really powerful about the human potential movement was faith-based, came out of faith-based thinkers, Christian thinkers, got very involved in that, learned how to articulate it in a way that I could generate awakening and transformation with groups. And I'm an entrepreneur. I have multiple businesses, and anything that, if you learn to work with people, you can almost do anything. I've worked in almost every field. I'm married, been married for 46 years this year, and been with my wife 51.
Awesome.
And I've got 2 kids and 7 grandchildren.
Okay.
Yeah. And half of us live up on the hill here in Horseshoe Bend, and my son and his children and ex-wife and wife live in Northern California.
Okay.
In Santa Rosa, right in the wine country, actually. So.
Awesome. So as you can tell, listeners, this man has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge on what we're going to be talking about in this podcast as far as the Inside Approach, helping men evolve. So I'm really excited. What I want to do is I want to start off the conversation with this question. If people were to look at you right now, what would they see? What kind of man are you right now?
Well, I've been told that my strongest suit is authenticity, and that I'm not afraid of the suffering that life brings. In fact, I embrace it. I've been told that my downside is I may be at times naive about even at my age, about others' intentions, but I figure they'll reveal themselves anyway. And I think my downside is, as a kid, and it's still with me, I notice it in there, I want to be liked, because I have a habit of saying things. I can be very direct, and as a kid, my mother was a schizophrenic, and so I learned to communicate by getting right to the point, and so I can be too blunt at times, or too quickly to the draw. I can be defensive, and oftentimes, but my wife says, even when you're defensive, I know you're listening. At some point, it's going to work you over. So that's a good thing if the wife says that.
So yeah, she's able to identify those things, help you work through those things. It's always nice to have our truth tellers, right?
That's
in our
right.
lives, for sure. So it's. I like how you're saying you have like a balance, or you're trying to balance as much as you can with the weaknesses and the strengths, and just being your true authentic self. I mean, we all come to the table with baggage, right? I didn't have the perfect childhood because our parents did their very best.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds like you had a really rough childhood. Schizophrenic is pretty strong to be raised in that type of environment. So I can see why your desires to get into the field and career that you did or are was so important to you. So
I was a go-between in my family. And my dad was an entrepreneur and a gambler. For a while, I think he was the world champion lowball player for a number of years, and so he's gone all the time. And I think he was gone because of the discomfort. After my mother had my youngest brothers, she started to go off. And it was a traumatic experience, but it was a life-forming experience for me. I think you were pretty aware. I mean, that's what threw me into what I wanted to do. I really wanted to learn how to get through to people, particularly my mother, and then that
Sure.
carried on later on.
How old were you at the time that started manifesting?
12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My
Those
first book,
formative years.
yeah, I was 12, and the first book I ever read was Gestalt Therapy Verbatim by Fritz Perls. And
Wow.
just
Okay.
so I could learn how to communicate with her because her IQ is like 170, and she's really, if I don't know if you know about schizophrenia, but
Not much.
you
No.
know, they call it the intelligent person's disease, and multiple personality type, you know, and very intelligent, could read people very quickly,
Mm.
and she could push your buttons, right? So being able to contain that and be there with her was the first thing, so I could hold in the
12 years
conversation.
old.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
That's a lot to take on.
It
A
was.
lot to take
Well,
on.
it was a scar. I mean, I went through a pretty hairy cocaine addiction
Okay.
in after I left high school, and I was playing. I was an All-American in 3 sports, and had an offer to play baseball, and then played football, and broke my foot, and went to the Raider camp, broke my foot in the last cut. Pretty depressed, got pretty nihilistic, and then really got connected to cocaine in the huddles. You know, guys would pass it around, and I went fully down that path. I think it was pretty despairing. And as I recovered, a lot of it was anchored into the trauma between my parents and I, and the breakup of the family and all that stuff.
Sure. So trauma resulted in, isolation of some kind, into addiction of some kind, versus, stuff.
And
So
then
that trauma from a childhood led into rejection. You felt,
Yeah.
not being able to succeed in the goals in which you had. And we're all faced with those things. And it depends on how we then react to those situations.
And numerous awakenings, the awakening with my mother to connect with her,
Right.
the awakening of the suffering that I thought I was impervious to in the addiction. So, there's awakening and transformation, right? They're different, but one's a vertical experience where it happens, and then transformation is like, it's a circular thing. It's ongoing. So I think of awakening as the seeing, the coming to a realization, and then transformation is the integration of it on an ongoing basis, the discipline of it. Because a lot of people have awakenings and then they drift back. And so, and I've had that experience and explored what that is. I've written about it.
What do you think most men drift back from? Why do they drift back?
I think it's because of unconsciousness. I think this is what I think, but I really believe that the challenge that men face isn't masculinity in any of that. It's unconsciousness about who they are, and the willingness to face their shadow.
Okay.
All right, to come to terms, to integrate it, because you don't get rid of it, and there's nothing wrong with it. It has its purpose. I was caught up in the street. I dealt drugs and did some, things that I'm not proud of. And I know what I'm capable of in that shadow. So being aware of that shadow, it's like transforming that shadow into an ally instead of an enemy. I have it more than it has me, so it can inform me as to who I'm with and what's wanted and needed.
Okay. So what drove you to that? Besides, you talked about your experience, but where did that, you were shown certain things as a child, which provoked it, but do you feel there was something more inside you reaching for that?
Yeah.
That stuff. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah. So I went down kind of a Solomon tube, like all Solomon and all the physical things. I wanted to experiment with everything, drugs, women. I've never been half-assed about anything I do. If I jump in, I'm usually all in, and I'm
Good or bad.
Yeah, that kind of goes with the territory. And I alienated people I care about very quickly, and I realized how lonely life would be like that. My selfishness would alienate me, and I think that most men are afraid of, at least in my experience, I was, the intimacy that's available, because along with it comes disappointment and betrayal. And
which you experienced as a child,
a lot,
right?
Yeah.
With mom going through her
dad.
change, dad not being around.
That's right.
Okay.
And and just friends, you know, I would set that same pattern up and get really close to somebody and then feel betrayed or, used or whatever. And I realized a lot of that was me wanting to impress my friends, and so I'm buying them in some regard. I'm prostituting myself, and then I'm disappointed because after they've had the use, they no longer, you know, they wanna do something new. And so there were conversations along the way. My grandfather used to call it the shit hors d'oeuvre principle. He'd say, "Junior, this problem started as an hors d'oeuvre. You didn't pay attention to it's a three-course meal. Let's go back to where the hors d'oeuvre was. Where where did you see it first show up?
Sure.
What did you first shy away from because you were afraid to put at stake whatever might be there in the conversation or in the relationship, find out early."
Yeah, being able to identify or go back, take a moment to sit to identify where the starting points were.
That's right.
Right. So it's kind of like a reverse engineer
That's right.
in a sense of like, okay, why am I here? What was the procedures? What was the steps? What was the choices, the habits that I made?
Well, and what was I aiming at?
What was your goal?
Yeah,
I mean,
like
your goal, you were saying you were chasing after, these worldly things, right? The drugs, the sex, the girls,
the
right?
recognition,
The
right? Yeah.
recognition, being able to do it for all the intentions of selfishness,
Yeah.
right? Just to be able to have that childhood trauma kind of set at ease for a little bit. So you're chasing after just these voids or filling these voids more than
Yeah, and the void
real
was
healing.
the lack of family. I remember arguing with my father, and it woke me up. I was in his stuff about how he treated us, you know, and how I felt treated and mistreated or neglected, whatever. And, to his credit, he listened pretty intently. And, I remember saying to him, "I'm gonna have a family like you never had." And I have. I do. Not like in comparison to him, but in comparison to what I long for. And I got that, and it's not like I have it, it has me. And it's more of an expression than it is something I get. It's a pleasure. I love my children. I love my grandchildren. I spend most of my time with my family. I work the work I do, they're involved in. My daughter's in this business. She homeschools her kids. I homeschooled my kids as well because I wanted them to wake up and to be awake and to be able to intervene in in injustice if that's necessary, and to stand up to. I mean, I remember I sent my daughter to school for a year in Northern California, and I went to the principal's office numerous times because she would intervene in her teachers' conversations because the biology teacher was there giving us the political lesson, and she was awake. My daughter was awake, and she would say, "Excuse me, but we can certainly have this talk on private, but this is a biology class," right? And then boom, off to the office. So, like that.
Yeah, don't talk about the teacher.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have completely and have been investing in yourself for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
Right. And that then turned around to invest in your children.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that is now manifesting your children, investing in their children. And so it started with you, the power of one.
Yep.
You made a decision.
I did.
Are you perfect?
No.
Absolutely.
No, in fact, that's actually the best part because my children can see we become intimate through my mistakes. I own up to them, and my wife is very humble that way as well. And because of that, we have my daughter took had my wife and I and her husband's father and mother to go on their honeymoon with them.
Oh, fun. And
we said, "Are you crazy?" And they said, No, we got this planned out." So we all went on their honeymoon and they wanted it. We were like, and they said, No, this is what we want. So we funded it and ourselves, and we went and had a blast with them for a week, 10 days in Maui.
Just had that connection,
Yeah,
right? So they wanted to share that experience with you.
And they were really connected to the people I work with.
Okay.
Right? I have a network around the world, and I'm very connected to the Hawaiian community on the islands. And so we had a wedding on Maui, and it was beautiful because the Hawaiians had a pig and they brought elders, and then we sat down and the kids were, again, awakening is a big theme. They were able to ask questions of the elders about what life might be together and what they ought to be thinking about, and the elders talked about like most of the things that last is what they talked about, and it opened their eyes to, and they still talk about it, and they've been married 15 years, so
It's
16,
incredible.
16 years.
Getting that exposure to different culture, different people. I mean, it's always huge, but you've
Yeah.
been able to provide a lifestyle of growth for them to be receptive to information like that. And so again, I applaud you for the journey that you've been on and the journey that you're having your kids join you with. So that's humongous. So it's huge.
Yeah, thanks. I'm honored, actually blessed. I pinch myself every morning, believe it or not.
Well, I really love the fact that it's because of the approach you've taken to life, right? You've taken this inside approach in order to make these changes, make these transformations in order to see now the results. And then sometimes it doesn't feel real, but again, because you did the work.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not easy work.
No.
Right? It's hard work.
Yeah, it doesn't change either. Like I said, it doesn't, the discomfort doesn't change. It's because, it's like there's four basic distinctions I notice constantly come up. First is wake up, right? See where you are. Next one's own up. Take responsibility for what you want to have. Who's there? What's up? Take ownership of that. Grow up, which is simply stand in what it is you're afraid of. And and really to grow up is to understand the purpose of suffering is really, I've experienced, I think C.S. Lewis said it best, which is, he taught, what I learned from him is that most people who can't connect suffering with God really have a misunderstanding of God, because in a fallen world, in a world where we have free choice, then people are going to choose selfishness, and that's going to hurt others. And usually, if something's hurting, it's a call to learn something about the way I see the world and what's possible. And that's what I've found, that the suffering has a purpose, and usually the other end of suffering is wisdom.
I like that. I mean, a lot of us, we go through the suffering and say, why me?
Yeah.
Right? Instead of why not?
Yeah.
And so as we go through these storms, these suffering, what for?
That's right.
Right? We get placed in these situations, and all of a sudden our ego gets into place, like, why me? Versus, all right, what can we learn from this? How can we evolve from this? What's the lesson to be learned here? But I know lots of times in my life, and in those times of suffering, what do? I retract. I hide. Or I get distracted. I allow my default distractions, prevent me from growing in those experiences.
Yeah. Well,
right?
It's a real I think most men, a lot of men I've talked to, hold that against themselves, but it's really a mammalian response. They think about it, focus. These are the things that I key on when I'm working with people is focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. And focus is first, right? Because if you want somebody, you got to get their attention. If you take a look at these things, what are they designed to do? They're designed to get your attention.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, they want to get. That's what they're after. They make a business on your attention, get your attention, and that takes novelty. That's what gets people's attention. And I've found that a lot of men are afraid to be themselves, and if they are themselves, they're so novel, people will pay attention. But if I'm ashamed, then I won't want people's attention, and then I'll wonder why I'm alone, right? But if I'm just authentically myself, I don't have to worry. It'll draw the right attention, and that's the next thing is authority. Then I will have authority. If you're paying attention, I've got more authority to author something possible into your life, and that creates tribe. And tribe is a huge deal. And shame, for me, and what I've studied, shame is a feature. It's not a problem.
Expound on that. I like that.
Well, tribe is, our bodies, our biological reality hasn't changed in probably 30,000 years, 20,000 years. So we're built just like 10,000 years ago, the same humans walked the earth. And without a tribe, you didn't survive. So if you did something that would alienate you from the tribe, that represented death. So immediately you feel shame because if you're excluded, you could end up dying and losing your family and losing your life. So it's built into us biologically. So it's an indicator that there's something to check into, there's something to listen for. And most, listening for, when I say that, I mean most of us are unaware of what we listen for. And I, as a business guy, I've learned to tune listening. It's like radar, right? So if you think about radar, um, radar listens for something very specifically, right? It's this it's
A frequency.
a frequency
Mhm.
goes out, comes back, and it identifies solid objects. And if you think about Doppler radar, they developed it because regular radar could not tell you that a wind shear was occurring. So what they did is they created a radar that could listen to the water drops in the air, and they could tell what the wind shear was doing. So it altered what it listened for. And most of us are listening for our brain is set up as to listen for threat.
Right.
Naturally, biologically, we default to threat, not possibility. And that's a big deal because if I'm listening for threat, then I'm going to anything new is probably going to show up as a threat at first because it's outside of what I know. And if I
Outside the comfort
the
zone.
comfort zone, yeah, that which I am used to. And so if I don't know, if I don't have an awareness of my own machinery and how that plays into my shadow and my history, then I'll be run by my history and I'll produce what I say I really don't want. And I'll think that that's just the way that I am. When really, neurologically, it's what you listen for. And you will take what you're used to or what you can predict over what is new and possible every time, unless you're consciously making that decision. And if you make that decision enough times to go with what is possible, what you care about, then your body will get used to it. And pretty soon your identity will shift towards that.
Mic drop. Everyone, that was we could stop this podcast right there. Dan, that was amazing.
That's just what
I
I
mean,
do.
it is. It's really whatever we focus on becomes
right.
our reality,
That's right.
right?
And focus on, invest in, and then your identity shifts to that.
It will.
And then you'll find contexts that will support that. And that, as an ex-drug addict, I'm clean now 40-something years. My son's 41, so I got clean a year after. So 43, I'm 42 years clean. And that I had to reinvent the context I put myself in because I was putting myself into high-rolling underground environments that supported everything that I said I didn't want. But, to think about go to another context is quite frightening because then you're new. You have to create credibility. You don't know the ground. You're awkward. You've got to find what do I listen for here that's going to be valuable and will provide for me and my family. That's a different world.
Sure. When a lot of us just go, what's going to provide for my family and just jump at the first opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a whole new topic we can really get on, right?
Especially with women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meaning?
Well, like, let's say you break up.
Okay.
Like you get divorced. And there's an interesting scripture on this. I always get in trouble with people about, but I've researched it inside out. And the scripture says God hates divorce. And it also says, if you get divorced, be ye reconciled.
Okay.
So this is a listening lesson. So
okay. There we go. Well.
So this is what you get me going now. I get on my nerd stuff. So, because I do a lot of work with couples and families. Because the work I do in the corporate world, they usually say, hey, could you have any stuff like this for our spouse or our family and friends? And I say, yeah, we've created some public trainings for this. And we do some work coaching, not just professionally, but we'll work with couples. And anyway, if you are dating somebody, let's say you break up, or you're married and you break up, you're actually commanded to be reconciled. Well, what does that mean, right? It doesn't mean get back together. So in the scripture, the word reconcile has two words, apokatallasso and katallasso. So katallasso is to establish peace where it's never been before. Apokatallasso is to restore the peace where it's been broken. So if you and I are in a relationship and something happens and we break down and we get at each other and we apokatallasso, we are called to restore the peace. And he's given us the power to do that. There's only one place in all the scripture where katalasso is what God does to man. He establishes peace. But there's one place in the scripture that word's used for man to man or men to human, and that's in divorce. God says, establish peace where you never had it before, because a little root of bitterness will defile many. So he gives us the power to reconcile, to establish peace that we never had in the marriage. And you'll see it with a lot of couples. I saw it with my dad and my mom. They were able to establish peace after they divorced in areas where they never had it before. And my dad's second wife, after 10 years of being single, became very good friends with my mother. They took care of my mother before she died and bought her a home. And the family was, I'll never forget one Christmas. You want to talk about awakening. We're all sitting around a fire. My dad does very well, and he's got a beautiful house, and we're sitting around the fire, and the whole family's there. And my mother gets up to toast my father, and she toasts instead of toasting my father, she toasts Amy, who's my stepmother, and she thanks her for all she's given to her and the family. And the whole room, my dad just heaves because it's a completion for him. And the room was silent. I mean, for a minute or two.
Powerful.
And I remember thinking, talk about waking up. Like, I saw my father wake up to who my mother was in ways he had never realized. And they were closer until her death than they had ever been.
I love that.
And my grandson says, what was your dad like when he was a kid? And I go, when he was younger, when he was your dad, I go, nothing like you know him. The backhand came awful quick. He's not even there. That's not the same person.
It's transformation.
Yeah.
The transformation.
Phenomenal.
Well, I like how you address bitterness. I mean, bitterness is a true emotion that can cause any human being to go down roads that are very hard to come back from. I love how you brought up divorce, because there's a lot of transactions in life, it could be divorce, business partnerships, employment. There's a lot of transactions that we go through in life that don't always go our way. And so they can cause a lot of bitterness. Yeah. My first marriage, been married twice, divorced twice, but my first marriage, it was very bitter.
Yeah.
And
but you can taste it too.
It was in the room, right? You could feel it, you could taste it.
Yeah.
That we couldn't be in the same room without that feeling.
Yeah, what is bitterness? You ever thought about that?
I haven't really.
Okay, because one day my son is an extraordinary human being. His IQ is like 170. He's like my mother. I think he got it from her. And one day he came to me. He says, "Dad," he was about 14. He says, "What's bitterness?" Because it says in the scripture, "A little root of bitterness defiles many." What is it? And Thomas Aquinas calls it unfulfilled revenge.
Oh, that takes a whole new level. Oh my gosh. Whoa.
The connection. And so my work is very much, I don't do a conceptual work. I started a concept, but my job is to speak to people like I would anybody at a 6th grade level, myself included. How does this mean? What does this mean in relationship, right? What can I awaken to around bitterness so that when it comes up, I can own it. It doesn't own me. Right. And it's anchored to promise. Right. Because we talk about transformation a lot. And once one awakens, then one becomes more intentional about the transformation of one's life. But how does one get intentional? Right. Because that intentionality is going to bring you face to face with bitterness. So if you think about
a lot of hard truths.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Oh shit! That's what it brings. That's the fertilizer. It's coming.
The fertilizer.
That's right. It's fertilizer. So promise is. If you think about it, a promise is a declaration made by one person to another that bonds the people in either honor, conscience, or law to do or forbear the act promise, and it gives the right to the person. Who is each person to call that out, right? So it is a transformational act. It transforms a duty I have to myself into a right I have to myself that I transform into a duty I have to you. And its future. And the root of the word, I'm a word freak, so the root of the word is mettere, right? Si mettere. It means to send forth, to make. So if you and if I make a request to go work out with you next Tuesday at your gym, I'm sending something forth. And if you agree to it, now you've given me the right to expect or claim it, and you have the right to expect or claim it. Now, in our culture, we wait till it's broken. Instead of, hey, looks like Dan, like, let's say I'm talking to you and you heard me talking to somebody else. And I was talking about doing something Tuesday with them, and you were concerned that would intervene in our appointment. Then you have the right to I've given you the permission, because oftentimes people will ask, how much right do I have to talk to this person, or how deep can I go with them? Well, actually, it's defined by the parameters of what you're bound by. And promises, there's only two things that bind: promise and bitterness. Promise binds me to the future, and bitterness binds me to the past. And so if I'm bound to the past, and you make a promise to me in bitterness, and you make a request of me to make a promise that calls me into a situation that's very much like what I'm bound to, I'm going to feel resistance. Now, I might accept the promise because I want what it gives me, but I'm going to be very cautious and begrudging about how I engage it. And you can, if you're really awake, you'll see this mood, and if you have the right to intervene in the mood, but it requires a certain character on your part, a certain courage to care enough about me, to risk my approval, to explore what you're seeing, to help me awaken to what you're seeing, and how that could be defiling the possibility that this promise represents.
Powerful.
Right. And if I'm really connected to it, then I'm going to do it with some passion, some diligence. I'm going to think it out. I'm going to do it to discover you, not just to get you to perform the promise, because the broken promise for me, is a cry for help. It's not, I'm not here to make you pay for your broken promise. I'm going to own first, how did I miss this? What signs did you give me that I didn't see? Or if I saw, I was unwilling to risk myself for that possibility. Then I can own that. And then I can explore with you about what's wanted and needed between us, so we can reconcile the peace. So there's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
That's what I cover in my training, my leadership training.
I love it. And I mean, I hope our listeners
we exercise it.
Which is good, because I mean, that's a lot to be able to just dump on somebody. So you need to take it step by step, which is great. So I love that you're doing that.
What we do is we establish promises, and then when they're broken, we just have these conversations. And then I re-anchor it back into what I keep re-anchoring. I open up with this and then re-anchor.
Yeah. Like, oh, what'd you just say? That's a lot. And I hope our listeners will go back and rewind and listen to this some more. And I think I love the word you keep using, the awakening.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times in my life that I've just been on autopilot.
Oh, man.
Right.
That's the issue for me in all my life. It's
just easy just to go on repetition. It's like the alarm goes off, you just go and act. Right? You just go and do.
I'm going down to Jared's gym. I'm going to work out today.
Right?
That's right.
So you just go and do versus start living life intentionally.
Yep.
With the intent to wake up.
Who am I?
Who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? What
am I committed to cause? Like I was thinking today, what am I committed to cause with Jared when we have this? And for me, it's intimacy. I really am committed, because I've wanted to connect with you, and you're busy and I'm busy and we pass. So I thought, shoot, this is a moment for us to get to know each other and just kind of enjoy each other.
Yeah, 100%. And just, again, brotherhood.
Right on.
Right? The connection that most men are lacking is the tribe.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting. Have you always, I wonder, what happened for you, if you don't mind me asking you, where you became, you're very conscientious, and you notice what's going around. You usually notice what others don't notice. That's what I've noticed.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Has that always been that way, or did something happen that opened up?
As far as I can recall, I've been observant.
Yeah.
I really have, I just love people, for one. And
I watch you with your clients. I see it.
I appreciate that. Because the more I learn, the more I evolve, the more awakened I become. I mean, I become fascinated more with why people are who they are. It makes me fascinated with me, my childhood, my parents, my brothers.
Yeah.
It just makes me fascinated. Just like what makes these, almost what makes them tick, but what makes them act a certain way. And so I reverse engineer it, or I just kind of observe what's going on in the room, and I just internalize it. So people like talk about people watching. I don't do people watching to make fun of them. I do people watching like, oh, that's fascinating.
Right
Why
on.
did they do it that way?
Like
What's their background?
Right on.
Who are they?
What's their
story?
So neurologically, they're so powerful and give me goosebumps. So you nail something. I mean, I remember talking to my wife about you. I said, she goes, who owns the gym? I go, that little guy who runs around. He's in great shape. He's smiley all the time. She goes, you know what? He's interesting. I go, yeah, tell me. Cause she's a damn good coach. She runs our coaching division, got ears like radar. I'm like, unreal. You just, there's no getting by with shit in my house. But she said, he is the most interested person in the room. He's interested in others. That's what makes you interesting, is how interested you are. Like I watch you with some of the people you coach, and I've heard them be kind of like snotty to you, and you reverse them so beautifully. Like you banter with them well, and it's because you're very interested in where they are and what they're up to, why they're where they're at that day. It was between you and Robert in the gym when I was looking for a trainer. I watched for 2 weeks. I was watching all the trainers. And you guys were very tuned in to your clients, particularly what they needed. And you were good at kind of creating that relationship where they wanted you to get close to them and guide them. So
appreciate that. Well, I mean, it really comes down to, again, brotherhood, being invested in somebody, being able to see the best in them.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've had so many people, Dan, I've had so many people build me up throughout my life, call me up. And that's what it's all about, is everyone wants to call everybody out for their shiz. Let's call them out. Let's call them up, because we all know we can do better. But if we call each other out, all it's going to do is going to go to that bitterness.
Yeah. If you call them up, they'll figure out what they need to be called out, but they'll call themselves out. Like when I talk in the room, I'll work with people about their promise calling, because they'll make a set of promises for the 4 days we do this training. And then I'm constantly just reminding them. And then I'll say, look, we're not in the classroom. There's no shame here, but you said this and you did this. I wonder what's between the two. That's all. Are you curious about it? And if they're not, okay, no problem. When you are, let me know. And by the end of day 2, usually everybody's like, okay, let's look at this, right? Especially if you've got peace enough to hold it. Like it's not a personal statement.
I like that. The peace.
And peace is, if you don't have peace, you can't enter chaos, right? My whole thing is about ordering chaos and releasing beauty. So one has to be awake to be able to connect with what's really going on. And if what's going on is so close to what I don't want to see in my own life, then I'll shut down. I'll avoid, I was thinking about this the other day, but to be aware of something, to be awake to something and not act on it is a form of avoidance. And you see it a lot. People, I've worked with clients, entrepreneurs, and they're completely aware of what's going on, and then they do nothing about it. And I know that now that conversation has to go to a new level. It's got to go to threat modeling, and that's a new deal.
Which is a whole new level.
Yeah, that's...
Wow. Well, unless people are put in an environment of stress, a stressor.
That's right.
Right? They need to, we will have a tendency to want to just float.
That's right.
And I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I've been floating on this podcast for a very long time because I never had a stressor to make it happen. So certain things had to happen in my life
to create the
stressor. Now, this isn't a stressor. I love this.
No.
But in order to get me off my butt,
do it excellently.
Do it as best as I possibly can, right? And I'm learning. I mean, I shared with you before, some of these podcasts, they haven't turned out great because I'm learning, right? And that's okay.
Right on.
I'm still going to move forward with it. I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
I'm beating my head against a wall
Well,
sometimes, but I'm getting advice and counsel from people that have gone before me.
which opens up new
It
possibility,
opens up new possibility.
which stimulates the desire to go again, right? And I know as an athlete, if I made the same mistake multiple times, I would get so despairing, and then some coach would come along, look at the film, make one simple observation, and immediately I got my cleats on, I'm going back out, right? Or I'm, gonna go shoot the hoop. Okay, the elbow, this, that, and the other, because now I'm awake to what is wanted and needed. Now the transformation is the constant practice of, and the sweat. And a lot of times, that's why threat modeling is so vital, because if I'm aware of what comfort's going to ultimately bring me at a level where it's discomforting, where it's a stressor, because that's a real paradox, because stress is both bad and good for you. Like it's a tension that we have to navigate. And being able to navigate, that's a big deal. I know a lot of fathers will be over stressful with their sons, and they'll wonder why their sons wither, right? Rather than rise to the challenge. And so how do you manage that? I know that I was like that as a young man, and my son actually pushed back. I'll never forget. He woke me up good. I was doing these trainings, and this very well-known psychologist wanted to know what I was doing, because she goes, I want you to know, I send my clients that are stuck to you in 4 days. You get done what haven't gotten done in 2 years. And I'd like to know what you're doing. And I said, happy to, show you. So she came up, and we're going to go do some nerding out. And my son's in the car. He's 12 years old, and he's chirking around, and he's acting like a dick. And of course this person's important. So we stop at this park, and we're going to go out and have lunch. And I take him around the men's bathroom, and I get him aside. I go, I mean, I'm in this shit. And he's like wide-eyed, and he goes, Dad, calm down. I really want to hear you. You're not making any sense. If you just calm down and tell me what it is, I promise I will stand with you. 12 years old.
Wow.
Calm me right down. I go, listen, this woman, I don't know if she's upset about this or not. Turned out she's a family gal, so it wasn't a big deal. But the way you're acting is really distracting. It's like you're drawing attention to yourself. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm embarrassed. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I am. I need you to stand with me. I need you to line up with me, because this is an important account. And he goes, okay, got it. And that was it.
On the same page.
Nope, done. But he stopped me.
Which is huge.
He woke me
out of
up.
the mouth of babes, right?
Talk about
out
awaken.
Of the mouth of babes. Awaken. Yeah. I mean, there's, I got 2 sons myself, and I push.
You do too.
Right? I want more out of them than they're ready for. And so there's been a lot of pushback, and they've had to awaken me to say, Dad, I'm not there yet.
Right on.
I'm not there yet.
What a great conversation.
Okay.
You're a partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was a season that my youngest son didn't want to speak to me after the divorce with his mom.
Yeah.
Did not want to speak to me.
Morning.
Didn't want to come hang out. I mean, there was a separation.
Yeah.
And now he's my roommate. We live together. We do everything together.
Yeah, you're right.
He's like one of my best friends.
I still want to go on your bike ride. So right? I've been pinging on my wife, and she's like, no, you're 70. And I told you stopped riding when you were 35, and we're not doing that again.
We'll find something else. We're going to bicycle.
I love what you guys do. Yeah, I bike a lot. I road bike. I road bike.
But it's having those conversations.
Right on.
And being not necessarily us always having those conversations being had with us.
Yeah. Listening.
Because again, just because we might be you mentioned authority, be able to be an authority figure doesn't mean we can't learn from somebody else. I mean, we can't learn from those that we have influence over.
That's what gives us authority. I can author into my son and my daughter's life because they have permission to author in mine, and they know they do. And the more they do, the more permission my daughter's rising up to run my company right now. And she's homeschooling 2 kids, and she's working from home, making good money, and she's leading the team, and I love it. And she constantly brings my attention to things I'm missing, and I really enjoy it. It's like iron sharpening iron in the most healthiest way.
And that's huge. I mean, there's a lot of times as men we can get blinders.
Yeah.
Right? we do things. It's, I've been doing it this way for so many years.
42
right?
years.
I'm not going to change. I was working.
I laid
if
that on
it
one.
broke, why fix it?
God bless her. I said to her the other day, I go, yeah, I've been doing this for 42 years. She goes, Dad, do you think I don't respect your experience? I went, yeah, that's what I think. And she goes, well, maybe to some degree that happened here, but what I want you to know is, and then she told me, I went, okay, got it. Check. Thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in my heart that communication is broken these days.
Oh, man.
It is broken. And I think in order for us to be more awakened, we need to check ourselves a little bit on how we communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents showed me it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Right? They showed me that way. So what did I do as a young father? I duplicated that.
This is my house. I pay the bills. My rules.
Right?
That's right.
And so that is the old way, and it didn't work. And it's only compounded over time.
Yeah.
And so communication is something I strongly encourage men, especially, to awaken to.
Yeah.
Learn how to communicate your words, your thoughts, your emotions, your needs, your wants.
Yeah.
Don't just demand it.
And
express it.
There's actually a trail, because communication's a symptom, not a cause. When the communication's off, it's indicating something. There's something behind it. There's a meta conversation going on that's generating, we're always intentional. And I found that there are 4 basic realities, neurological realities. One is people always make the best choice they see available. So your brain is always it doesn't get up in the morning and go, today I'm going to make the second and third best choice I see available. It's always looking for the best choice. So if somebody does something that's completely stupid, like something that should be on the Darwin Awards, like that, they should be eliminated from the race. You got to ask yourself, why? I wonder how that choice, I'll never forget this. So I read this in the Darwin Awards. I'm a Darwin Award freak. And this guy put 222 shells as fuse holders in his truck. And they went off and blew his nuts off. They just went right into his balls. And he didn't die. But he was put in there because of the stupidity. Another guy had to fix his transmission, couldn't figure the problem out. So he made a cage under the truck, and had the guy drive the truck. It killed him. And he's trying to understand. So, but in what context would that be the best choice available? Right? It may not be the best choice available, but to them, to that view, it was. The second thing is people always act congruently with the way the world occurs for them, always. So if I want to know how the world occurs for you, all I have to do is listen to your language, watch you move, see pay attention to you, both physiological cues, things that you are important, listen to your language, what you cue into. Now I have a sense of what's important to you. And then the way the world occurs for people happens in language. So listening to yourself talk, listening to what you emphasize, listening to what you omit, right? And what patterns are there? So patterns, emphasis, omission, in what context will give me some idea of who's over there, what matters to them, what are they listening for? And the last one is future language transforms current state. So if you and I are talking and you think you're going to triple your revenue next year and I think I'm going to half mine, we're going to be in very different moods. And that's because of what we're telling ourselves about the future, right? And this moment in the human brain is always a result of the future we think is coming. And how often do I really stop and think about the future I think is coming? Like I have friends, a couple of my buddies, you know a couple of them, but they're going through some financial problems now. And it's interesting because one of my experiences is really tight and the other one I experienced much open. And I think one is tight because he thinks that's the way it's going to be. The other one's open because he said that's how it is now, but I see I'm going to find other possibility. The confidence is I'm going to find the possibility. And if somebody's in that space, well, they're gonna find possibility where the other space won't the possibility look like a threat because it requires an investment and they don't think they have it. And to intervene in that is, to me, is so much fun because it's a challenge because, how I engage, that's a real art, will determine what opens up or closes down with that person. And it takes some diligence, and you gotta risk pissing them off
Sure.
to find the key, right? To find the doorway.
Well, I think a lot of it too. I mean, like it starts with us. It's gonna be hard for us to coach somebody else or help somebody else
Yeah.
walk this certain path until we do it ourselves. One of my coaches says we just need to be 3 steps ahead of those that we're trying to help.
Mhm.
As long as we're constantly progressing, we can always reach back and
Yeah.
pull somebody along with us.
Well, and for me, you better be really aware. You better be awake to who you are, because inevitably, the deeper you go with a client, the more you're going to come up against your own projections, right? And so, if I'm not familiar with my own shadow, I will not. I won't have resource for them when they touch it. I'll either be reactive or shut down, or I'll give them some A, B, C, D. I'll give them some structure, but it's really not structure that makes the difference. It's thinking, it's
Mhm.
mindset.
Well, and think about that as a parent.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids these days, I mean, even my young adult kids are advancing faster than wherever I was at that age.
Oh, the information they have
The information
available
is
to them.
accessible, it's bombarded. I mean, they have it.
Yeah.
So they're going to advance faster. So it's just a matter of time before they catch up.
Yeah.
So it's up to me as a father to keep evolving, to keep being awakened to more
Yeah.
in order to be able to be the influence they need for
Yeah.
the rest of their lives.
And knowing how to get their attention. Like, what are the novel ways of approaching them that will draw their attention? And,
And every child's different.
yeah.
Every
Oh,
child's
man.
different. I
Oh,
mean,
you
I got
tell
2
me.
boys, and my approach with that is
Yeah, my
completely 2
daughter's
different ways.
my son is an engineer and my daughter's a marketer.
It's different brains.
Oh, man. And to hear them fight is hilarious. I mean, we laugh. I peed my pants laughing, so have they. It's just crazy. So,
Well, Dan, let's transition
tell me.
into, with what do you think some of the men these days? I mean, we've talked. We had some good points on certain things. What do you think the challenges men are faced with today?
Well, again, I'm gonna go back to mindset because, one, if so, here's a symptom. Guys isolate. That's a symptom. It's a symptom of a mindset, and I would suggest that they're unconscious to the value of their own struggles. They're unconscious to the roles and that they've inherited from generations before them. They're unconscious to the power of vulnerability. They've bought into a number of different assumptions that isolate them, and that isolation is usually connected to selfishness. It's survival. It's like, I need to do this on my own because if I don't, then I don't have control. So how do I how do I intervene in that? That's really like like I said, for me, there's a foreplay, kind of four. It's I got to wake up, and then I've got to own up. So if I'm waking up, I'm willing to listen, particularly to what it is I'm afraid of, in a way that it like if I continue this way of being, who will I become a year from now, 5 years from now? Who will I become to my daughter, my son, my wife, my partner? Who am I becoming if I stay on this way of thinking? And if I don't know what to do, who can I call that will help me see what I'm unwilling to see? Because reality is always inviting us into a new relationship, a deeper relationship with God, others, and myself. And awakening is the invitation, if you will, to integrate that invitation and act on it. And that's what transformation is, the integration of that over time. And so who can I actually engage, that'll help me understand what's missing. So most of the time we get caught up in symptoms and then we try to come up with fixes for the symptoms rather than what is the cause and how do I get to that? Because that's a vulnerable thing. And most environments, like I go to all kinds of men's groups. I mean, this is my work. So, and I go to leadership programs. I've done all of Tony Robbins stuff. I've done Chase Hughes. I've gone, Jordan Peterson stuff. I've read everything he's read. I met him. I make it. Dallas Willard was on my board. I've done a lot of different things to keep me sharp like that. And I am amazed at how little I can't find too many spaces where people can get undone in a way that they connect with how their thinking is impacting their actions. Because to do that, the facilitator's got to take the risk. They've got to be willing to be disliked for a period of time because men don't like it. And they're going to fire back to test and see if they can trust you. So can you contain what comes your way long enough where they see, okay, I'm willing to look, and maintain the focus. Don't get defensive. Don't attack, listen, and continue to open up. Be patient in it. Because when they open up, the rest of the room, like when it happens progressively, I'll do a training and the first day I know I'm going to get tested in every which way. And then by the end of the second day, guys are buying in and I'm in the back of the room. Now they're running the room. Right. And that takes, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, some humility.
Yeah. Oh, complete.
Right.
The willingness to learn.
The willingness
That's humility.
to learn.
Yep.
We can't ever say we know it all.
No. You can discover it.
You can discover it.
Yep.
But at the same time, discovery doesn't mean anything.
I mean,
right?
Learning is the introduction to humility.
The introduction. And I mean, we're going to talk about your article here real quick. Let's talk about just because we learn more doesn't mean it calls us to action.
Yeah.
We can be book smart.
Yeah.
But unless we do application smarts.
Or we could have really accomplished this once before and now we think we've arrived and then we're called out again. We think, oh no, I don't, now I'm going to tell you instead of be there. Right. I mean, I've done that. I have
easily.
That t-shirt.
I mean, being the boss at the gym, right?
Yeah,
it's easy for me just to walk around like I'm Mr. Know-it-all. But do I never think of health and wellness? No, I'm still learning.
Yeah, right on.
Right. And so that's what we need to have is that mindset. It's really important for us to have that mindset is like we just keep growing. If we keep growing, it's going to call us forward. It's going to call us up.
Yeah,
it's
right
going
on.
to prevent us from the isolation.
Yep.
Right. Instead of like, oh, I should, it's I could.
Yeah.
And I struggle with those words for a very long time. I'm still struggling with those words.
No shitting on me.
Yeah, no should on me because should comes from shame.
Shame.
Right? We're in shame because we're not doing more.
Self-judgment. Yeah.
Self-judgment. We're our worst critic. Our enemy is our inner me.
Yeah, it's like a wake-up call.
It is a wake-up call. And so what could you be doing right now? Not what should you be doing? What could you be doing right now? Look at the possibilities.
Such a great question.
It really is. And because if we look at what we could be doing,
yeah,
it awakens up.
Yeah, man.
Right? It brings
and that'll sting at first.
It does.
The awakening always is a little shock.
But it's you calling yourself out as a starter, and so start calling yourself out. What could I be doing now? And then I don't know how to do that. Okay, what do? You mentioned it. Go get a coach. Go read a book, right? Go listen to a podcast. Go do something instead of going into your, isolation and your distractions. Pop on Netflix, pop on something, look at a book or
I call it going on vacation.
Go on a vacation, right? It's really easy. There's so many distractions. You mentioned that with phones. It's easy to flip and swipe.
Yeah.
And just rot our brains, right? They call it brain rot for a reason, guys, is apply ourselves in the right direction. And is it a transformation overnight?
No, in fact, transformation takes time, right?
It takes time.
Because it happens at the identity level. And identity comes after you've gathered enough evidence for the brain to reinvent it.
It's just like any habit, right? Riding a bike.
Yeah.
Did you master riding a bike right away? No. You had to get little training wheels. You had mom and dad to hold you on back. I mean, there was progressive things. Now I'm riding a dirt bike.
Yeah.
There's a lot of navigation on a dirt bike as compared to riding with training wheels, right?
God, yeah.
And then riding a street bike. I mean, there's cars, there's idiots, there's a lot of people. So there's these progressional things that we always need to be looking for?
And particularly in relationship.
Okay.
Because relationship is so vulnerable for most men, and we wanna be really good, and we wanna be invincible, etcetera, for the ones we love, and then when we see we've let them down, it's that's a really vulnerable place to be in, but it's such a valuable place. It's like just the opposite's available than we think. We think it's gonna weaken ours, and when, I'm like my daughter, my daughter was 13, and she was experimenting with drugs, and she was experimenting with boys, and I had come home. My wife had asked me to come home because my son was 13. I was working a lot. I'd be gone 2 weeks a month and traveling and speaking and training and working. And, we had this birthday party for my son's, best friend. He was 50, his father's 50th birthday party. Good time, and long story short, after we break for dinner, we're gonna smoke a cigar and have some dessert, and Dan went off with his girlfriend to do homework, and Lizzie stayed home with his friend. They're all friends, so they're hanging out. My wife gets this premonition while she's fixing something that this kid's forcing himself on my daughter. She walks upstairs, and sure enough, she catches this kid on top of my daughter. My daughter's freaked out, and they come downstairs. This kid's 6'2", and she's dragging him down the stairs by the ear. You can imagine how awkward that moment is. And, I'll never forget. This is an awakening I'll never forget. And I go to her. We get them uncomfortably out of the house, and I get her upstairs, and I go, "We got to talk, man. I can't bestow trust on you again. I got to know what's going on." And she basically just, "Fuck you. I'm not talking to you." And I was like, "Okay, well, this is how it works. I'm picking you up at school. I'm bringing you home. You don't know socializing. I take you wherever you go. I stay there till you're done. I bring you home till we can have this talk." This goes on for a month and a half. It's no movement, ice queen, tough as nails. So I call my friend in California. I love the way he raised his kids. I ask him for some coaching, and he says, "I'm not your guru, Dan." I go, "Yeah, I know. That's one of the lines I use when people ask me for answers in the training room. It's like, you come up with it." So I go, "Yeah, I get it." He goes, "I would just speak the possibility over him. That's all. Just don't give up on her." I said, "I got it. That's what I'm doing." So I go back. It goes on for another month, and now we're 2.5 months in. So I'm taking her on a snowy day and going from Dexter, Michigan to outside of Detroit to Ann Arbor, and I'm taking her to dance class, and it's snowing. It's 3-foot snow. I pull over the side of the road. She's cold. She's colder than it is outside. She's looking out the window. She's about 4'11". She's a little tiny thing, barely fits in the seatbelt. And I just pull over and I start weeping, and I say, "Look, I know I'm not a good dad. I can see it, but I want to tell you something. I can see how ineffective I am, and you hate me." And I just started weeping. And I said, "Honey, I'm never going to let you go. I'm going to hunt you down. I will leave my job. You cannot escape me." And I said, "I love you no matter what, but I will not get off this." And she jumps out of that chair, buries her head in my chest, and says, "I love the way you love me." Now I'm fully confused. This is obviously a woman. That's what I thought to myself. What is she talking about? Then she's weeping, and she says, "I knew Derek didn't mean to do that. I started. I didn't know how to stop it." And, and just pours her heart out. And we talk for 2 hours. She misses dance class. We go back. She gives me all her diaries so I can understand her. And from that day on, we're like this. And I never told her she had to bring her guys home. I didn't do any of that. She brought every guy she dated home. There was 3. The third one she married. And we talked about it and went through all kinds of changes. Those are different stories. But the awakening that came there was me understanding what made the difference wasn't having the answer, was letting her see how sold out I was for her future, and that nothing was more important. And when she saw that, she's just a solid citizen, man. And her husband says it, man. She is love. He tells me all the time, she's just a blast to be with, man. Even when we fight, we laugh. So, and she's really on her toes.
Well, again, communication.
Yeah.
Your approach changed. It went from aggressive
Yep.
to submissive,
Yep.
to loving,
Yep.
to sharing your heart,
vulnerability. This is where I'm at.
breaking down.
Yep. Here's my commitment, and here's where I'm at.
Exactly. So being able to set your boundaries,
Yep.
right? But do it in a way that's a loving boundaries, not my way or the highway, like we talked about. not being overbearing.
And you can't do that. Like, you can't do that as a technique. You really actually have to, like, you really got to muster that love for that person in a way that they can get that you mean what you say and you're saying it for them. Yeah. Like they get it's for them.
Well, a lot of times, yeah, as a parent, like if your kid step out of line, you mentioned this earlier, you step out of line, it's an embarrassment to you.
Yeah.
Right. But is it, that's your problem.
That's my problem.
Right. It's not the kid's problem.
Exactly what my son said to me.
Did exactly. Right. But so unless we are articulate in the way we expect or what we need or how we view things, we can't expect others to follow or comply, or I guess comply is not the right word, but just to be able to contribute. That's a great word. Contribute or understand.
Yeah. Like, invite me in. I want to know what you're thinking. I'm not here to wreck your thinking. I'm here to learn.
Well, we talk a lot about stepping forward.
Yeah.
Right. Bitterness takes us backwards, holds us in a future or in a past lifestyle. We're talking about moving forward in the present. Getting out of the comfort zone. I love your article about the cost of comfort.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of close with this, that article was fantastic. And I just want to read one of the quotes that I liked a lot. It's a little paragraph, but it said, lasting transformation doesn't occur because a person accumulates new information, nor because he summons sufficient willpower. It occurs when the interior systems that govern his behaviors are brought into light, where they can be honestly evaluated, willingly surrendered, and intentionally renewed.
Yep.
That is a huge statement about transformation.
Yeah.
But tell us a little more about your article, about the cost of comfort.
I wrote it so people could understand the methodology the approach I use when I train. Because I've had so many people say it's so hard to tell people what you're doing. You can't tell them what you did. What is the approach? And what are the assumptions that you're in? Because it is, I know I'm a gifted guy in that domain because it relates to what I did with my mother, and I've honed it into, I negotiate, I have multiple businesses and I know how to use it in a way that opens up possibility. It can be manipulative too. And you learn not to do that, but that's there. Anything that has the power to bring life has equal and opposite power to bring death. So if you get off on it and you start to be selfish about it, well, it'll cave your world as quick as it'll open it up. But I wrote it so people would have a sense of what we do in the room and they could join me in it right away. So there's 4 basic steps. First one is target acquisition. People call it vision, but really it's even more than that. It's because vision, you will create a vision of a future, right? The next thing is, okay, what are you aiming at? Now, Jordan Peterson, I think, talks about this really beautifully because he gets this neuroscience behind it. So you aim at something, and what happens is your brain naturally creates, you don't have to worry about what to do. If you're really aiming at something, like I aimed at losing this weight at your gym, then what happens is the brain understands what the hierarchy of concerns is. What exercise, what food, blah, blah, that all comes into view out of the aim. So, how is always the wrong question. Who and what? Like, who do I need to become for this to occur? Right? So I aim and I get really specific about what I'm aiming at. Now that creates a certain possibility, which brings excitement. People get jacked. But there won't be any action, just aiming and creating the aim, but there'll be focus. The next step is you have to do what's called threat modeling. I mentioned it earlier. And threat modeling is the ability to, hey, if I don't shift, what specifically is coming my way? If I continue on the path I'm at and I want to go over here, but I'm going this direction or whatever, what is it going to look like? So, for instance, when I came to your gym, specifically, I have a very young family, and my boys and girls, they're active. We don't do a lot of screen time. We regulate that. We fish, we hike, we ride dirt bikes. I have 500 acres. We do all kinds of really active stuff, and I fly fish like a maniac. I golf, and so I noticed I was in the river, and it was hard for me to walk in the river. And I'm going to take my son, and I'm going to teach him how to read the river and how to, all that. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was sick. So it woke me up to, okay, pal, you're just turning 70 and you're already an old man. This no way. And so I got really clear and I got really specific about what I needed to do. I'd already been doing lots of cardio, but that wasn't enough. And I knew I had to do some resistance training, and I know how I am. I go full speed. So what do I want to do? And I've been a member at your club for 2 years. I hadn't even come. And
Thank
then I
you.
started coming
Mhm.
and watching you and watching Rob and watching all the different trainers. And I would work out watching everybody. And finally I said, okay, I'm gonna go with Rob. And then I just dedicated myself. And a lot of men they're not awake to the difference between intensity and consistency.
I like that. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
You can be intense about something and you're going to get short-term benefit. But you know what? I tune down the intensity, stay consistent, because the consistency is what brings the transformation. And that's all I've done. It's just like when as I woke up to it and I'm aware of these distinctions, I just, okay, now I've decided I'm going to do this. If I don't do this, who do I become? Well, fat, diabetic, uh, disconnected from my grandkids, on the outside. I mean, I got very specific. I wanted to feel it, right? So remember, I talked about focus, authority, tribe. Well, if I'm not going to be part of the tribe like I want to be, if I don't shift, and in specific ways, I want to do it so it bothers me, because what it does is it moves from the neocortex, where you plan and vision, into a part of the brain called the reticulating system, activation system in the brain. And when that comes, that's on when you're bothered. So if I don't go to the gym, I'm bothered. I remember I told this guy, I did this too, because this guy called me out in a training. I was doing a training for Elon Musk, one of his companies. And this executive, we had a pretty intense program and it worked out really well. But this guy pulls me to the side. He goes, okay, you're a hypocrite. I said, well, tell me more. He says, well, look, you're 300 pounds and you're talking about blah, blah, why don't you put some of that magic to work for yourself? So this is all happening at the same time. I realize I can't walk in the river. And I went, okay, got it. He goes, I go, you want to put a little money on this? He goes, yeah. So I said, I'll lose 30 pounds in 6 months. I lost it in 4 months and I've stayed on it. And I'm in the best shape I've been in 40 years, and I can walk any river, and I'm as strong as a bull, man. And I've got years left, but I know that came from threat modeling. And now I used to hate going to the gym. I hated it for the first 2 months, but I remember I'd get up, I'd go back to bed, and I'd lay there, and I'd see I see him. He's laughing at me. He's gonna get the $500. He's gonna make fun of me. I'm not gonna be able to go out with my kids. Boom, up to the gym. Now I feel goofy if I don't I go to the gym 6, 7 days a week, right? Either your gym or I go to Lifetime or I'm doing something, riding bikes,
Right.
and that keeps me going. And my identity is shifting. So identity architecture is the third level. You can't get to identity without getting through the first two. So that's why awakening is target acquisition, threat modeling you awake. And you use the threat modeling to keep you consistent, and then identity starts to shift. And then the next thing you start thinking about is context matters. Who do I surround myself with? Where do I go? What context do I put myself in that either support or take me away from what it is I'm committed to? And what friendships, what relationships are most contributive to what I'm committed to, who I'm committed to becoming, really. And I exercise all of those. And I used to think the last one didn't matter, but as a drug addict, I realized no, it matters. I mean, I can still have friends who are drug addicts, but I don't hang out with them all the time. I see them in very particular ways so that I don't get influenced. And not that I would necessarily fall, but you put enough influence around you'll find out where you're weak.
Well, it's always been said that show me your habits, show me your friends,
Yeah.
show me your schedule.
Yeah.
I'll show you
Show
your future.
me your bank book.
Show me your bank book, but
Yeah.
I'll show you your future.
Yeah, that's right. Right on.
Everybody today, well, not everybody, you can't use that generalization, but so many of us today just live for the day.
Yeah.
Again, we just go on autopilot.
Yeah.
We choose just to set the alarm and just go through the day versus what
Just get through the day.
I do next. And so I love what you're saying, how you break it all down, and we come up with this identity. Where we're at is an identity, but where does that identity come from? It comes from the choices that we have made from our past. It all led up to today. Today is where you're at because of the choices of yesterday and the day before.
And
so where do you want to go tomorrow?
And your brain's using all of that.
100%.
You know, that's what people don't realize, man. I do. Because I've studied neuroscience, and like I love how neuroscience is learning what the Bible's been teaching throughout history. I mean, it's right there, and neuroscience is coming up on it all the time. But your identity shifts as you consistently provide evidence to the brain that you are the person you say you're committed to becoming, that God's calling out of you. You are actually that person, and here's evidence. You got to produce the evidence. And it works. I've seen it work, but that's transformation. Transformation is that integration.
Well, whatever we focus on, we attract.
Yeah.
Again, it's so simple to say.
That's how I met you.
Exactly. Right. It is.
I've often laid in bed thought, 2 years I was a member at your gym.
Right.
2 years I never went.
But now that you've decided to want a better future for your life, health-wise, for your grandkids, for your family, for your businesses, all of it, it put us into a contact, which then all of a sudden we arrived at a men's group together, had no idea.
Completely unrelated. A guy from the East Coast enrolled me, and you're there with all the guys from the gym, guys I've met.
Right.
Blew my mind.
So it's like we will, again,
come together.
We will come together. Show me your friends. It'll show you your future. Yeah. And as we continue to advance, our associations need to improve.
Yeah.
It does have influence on us, regardless. I mean, a lot of us just like, oh, my friends are good, but are they building you up?
Yeah.
So I love what you're talking about, being able to, the cost of comfort. The cost of comfort is I mean,
it's the most expensive thing
any
man owns.
Most expensive. I guess that's the best thing to be able to say right there. It's going to cost you the most.
Yeah.
Than putting yourself out there just a little bit. My invitation has always been just 1 degree or 1% better this month than you were last month.
Yeah.
If you can commit to that, it's going to get greater. Because even in fitness, look at this. I mean, when I talk about fitness, I'm like, do 1 push-up every day.
Yeah.
If you want to be healthy, do 1 push-up every day.
Pretty soon you're doing 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I've been doing that on pull-ups.
There you go. But then you're going to start looking at nutrition. You're going to start doing other things.
That's right.
It starts with one
because
discipline.
that influences, and you start to get the detail in it.
And you start attaching the identity to it.
Like last night I was talking to my wife. We got into it pretty good, and got into it because she's an accountant, and I'm a deal maker. So I got this deal. I'm buying my partner out. And I'm, working through the numbers, and she brings very meticulous. She's extremely meticulous, but she wants to give me all the background, and I lose it on her. I'm like, honey, I'm making a deal here. I know you did a lot of work. I'm actually raising my voice. My grandson comes to me and goes, what are you guys arguing about? I'm like, okay.
Calling you up.
I go, here's what I want you to hear, honey. I so appreciate what you do. I really do, man. Like, I couldn't make this deal without this. And then when you go into all this minutia, instead of listening to what I'm asking, I'm reacting because I'm making up that somehow it's about you, not me. And I can see that's my projection. So will you forgive me? Will you join me? I need you to be strategic. I need you to be a CFO now. And it was amazing. She climbed right in, and my grandson, he goes, I thought things were okay. And he went in the other room. He's so cool. But I was like, you could hear me race. I'm like, would you listen? And she goes, you're yelling. I go, I'm not yelling. Mr. Calm.
But it's awareness.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that outside perspective.
My grandson says, you're always so calm, except for when Nani does this. Yeah, I know.
It's many years of,
50 years of
50 years of it. Well, let's close up here really quick. Your growth, again, you didn't do it by yourself. You sought help from mentors. You sought
I have
help
a huge
from,
network. Yeah.
Right. Network. I mean, people that have gone before you. I mean, you're a religious man, so I'm sure you're seeking inspiration from God. What 1 or 2 books would you strongly recommend for men that are like, I'm ready to get off the couch.
Okay.
I'm ready to do 1% more.
All right.
I know I could be doing more. Let me start with a book. Let me
Okay.
start with, learning from somebody. What would you recommend to them?
All right. Before I recommend, let me context. Okay. I read probably 3 or 4 books a month, but I do it because I want mentors, and I find mentors through the people I read. And I've read my favorite authors are, C.S. Lewis, um, Martin Heidegger, Fyodor Dostoevsky, and uh, Soren Kierkegaard. And those are Christian thinkers. I want to learn from them. So when I offer a book, and I think if somebody's just starting out, I would read this book, but read it as like you're going to meet somebody. You're going to meet the guys who wrote this book. They're Japanese, and it's called "The Courage to Be Disliked." And they wrote a book called "The Courage to Be Happy." Both of them are excellent. Read "The Courage to Be Disliked" first, and really listen to it. Do the exercises. It'll work into you. And I it's one of the best books I've read.
Mm.
Another one is Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. And because Dostoevsky taught me about that the greatest challenge we have is self-deception. Heidegger taught me that transformation begins when your everyday interpretation is shattered. C.S. Lewis taught me that there's always something to learn new in suffering. Kierkegaard taught me that knowing objective truth is worthless unless you can take it into your heart. Right? Those are things like there's like all these different lessons, and these guys are about authenticity. The courage to be disliked is about authenticity and standing, and leadership and self-deception is all about taking ownership of what it is you're committed to having and interrupting the projections. How you know you're projecting on somebody is that they can get your goat, like I was projecting onto my wife, right? So wake up to your projections, because if you can't hear it with a clear, peaceful mind, there's something you're reading into it that may not be there. And you may be mistaking your interpretation for what somebody else is saying. How do you separate that? That leadership and this self-deception and the courage to be disliked will open that up.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely put links to that in the podcast. I think the title of today's podcast is going to be Awaken, because I think a lot of the listeners today have been awakened to more. So, Dan, thank you. What an honor to have you in this room, to have this conversation. And this is definitely something I'm going to re-listen to, because I learned extremely mounds of information from you. So
I had so much fun. I enjoy being with you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much.
Bless you, brother.